So those were actually like carabined like onto the harness that I was wearing underneath the clothes, so that when I was like literally jumping off, the guitar would sort of still stay with me, and hopefully the only danger was just not going to whack me.
Hey, what's up, Charlie?
Hey, how's it going, Adam?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I am good, man. I am good. Nice and early here in the morning. I got my coffee, so yeah.
Yeah, it's 3 o'clock here in the afternoon in Nashville. What's your time difference? Like 8 or 10 hours, something like that?
It's weird because we're in the future, so we're like tomorrow, 10 a.m.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
It doesn't quite make sense, but yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so how's Tuesday?
It's it's okay.
That's awesome. Well, I'm Adam. Very nice to meet you. This is a podcast about you and your journey in music, and we'll talk about the new single that you put out, and I believe it's going to be part of an album. So maybe we can chat about that as well.
Perfect.
Sweet. So first off, born and raised in New Zealand. What part of New Zealand are you from?
Hawke's Bay, which is the east coast of the North Island.
Okay. What was it like growing up there?
It's nice. Like, they call it sunny Hawke's Bay. And the reason is there's like all of these pine forests that kind of surround it. And then so all the clouds generally go there and dump all the rain there. So we get a lot of sun here. And it's, like a small town, but it's a growing town. There's lots of beaches, some of them too dangerous to swim in, but
Is that right?
you're always growing up always growing up by the ocean. And that's just, for instance, something which, we actually made the remark of when we're traveling through Nashville. The hills that you're kind of going through, the kind of landscape that you do get here, but you expect just to see the ocean on the other side, when you get to the top of the hill, it just never arrives. But it's a beautiful place, and it's just it's actually one of the Art Deco capitals of the world as well, because in 1931, the main city, Napier, got completely decimated by a massive earthquake, and then so they rebuilt the whole city in a style that was popular at the time, which was Art Deco. So it's kind of got a little bit of a Miami vibe in some places.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm from San Diego. I only moved to Nashville about 3 years ago. So I know it's like, growing up next to the ocean. We had it not as sunny. It was most of the time like overcast and 70 degrees.
Yeah.
But you said it like there's certain oceans or certain beaches that you don't swim in there, right? Why is it just like the waves are too gnarly, or the rip current is, or like what is the reason behind that, or the animals?
There's actually a really hardcore undertow, and so it's if you get swept in there, you will be stuck in the ocean and be spat out like 2 kilometers down the down the beach. So
oh my gosh.
So it's like there's heaps of signs and stuff, but you every now and then you still see like tourists. I remember one time I was going down to eat a kebab on the on the beach, and I'm like, hey, all you guys from Germany, get out of the water, you're gonna die. Like, what? It's a beach, we can swim at the beach,
Oh my, yeah. We didn't have horrible undertow from that. Maybe we did. But rip currents are a big deal. So like if you got caught in it was similar, where like it would just start taking you farther and farther out and down, and like you had to swim sideways to like parallel to the sand to kind of get yourself out of it in order to come back in. But yeah, I mean, I got caught in one when I was super young, and I remember my dad, like, he didn't think he was gonna be able to get me out. The like lifeguards there, like half the time not even like paying attention, and or they're not there. It's just like an interesting thing.
yeah, absolutely.
So that's awesome. It sounds like a beautiful place to grow up. As far as music goes, how did you get into music? Do you come from a musical family, a musical household?
Well, when I was really young, I remember my dad had an electric guitar. He didn't play it a lot, but he'd pull it out every now and then, and I always like thought it was a really cool thing.
Mhm.
Never necessarily had, any inkling to play myself. But then as, like I would have been like 9, 10, because for most of my earlier life, I was just infatuated with basketball, like
Oh,
completely. Like I
cool.
used to shave my head because I wanted to be bald, like because all the basketball players are bald.
Yeah.
And I when Californication came out, I was like, I want to play that on guitar, and then so I got my dad to get me a guitar, and started going to these guitar lessons. And you know, this was just at the school, and and bless her heart, the teacher, Miss Williams, she uh, only knew like the basic 4 or 5 chords, and so that's all she taught us. And then so it just kind of got boring pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So I set that aside because I didn't want to play 10 guitars. I wanted to play Californication, and then so I set that aside and continued on my basketball journey. And then at one point, my dream was literally to play in the NBA. And at one point, I had a coach who he just pushed me too hard, and that's a whole story in itself. And it's kind of interesting just to see how that has affected my the way that I've gone through the rest of my life, and like never giving up on anything else. But I did give up this dream that I had, and then so I kind of had this big void in my life because it was just I've always been an extremely passionate person. I've always put 110% into anything that I do.
Mhm.
But when there's nothing, you're just kind of like looking back. I was just scrambling. I was trying to find something. All my friends were skateboarding at the time. For some reason, I could never quite get the ollie thing, which kind of
Okay.
ruled that
Pulls
out
out
a little
everything
bit.
else.
And then
Yeah.
so with that, I was like, so I just started skating vert,
Okay.
and then so I was doing that for a little bit, like not a long time, but what that led me to do was go to the video store and rent out a videotape, which was like an ESPN's Extreme X, like extreme sports thing, and I still remember exactly how the cover looked. And I put that in, and there was this downhill luging scene where Paranoid by Black Sabbath came on, and it was just like I was infected with how that made me feel. I was just like, this is making me feel pumped up. This is making me feel amazing. I want to listen to that song again. Of course, I had no idea what the song, like the song name was, or who did it. And then so I'm like pausing the VHS at the end of the video. And if you
Oh yeah,
remember,
when it gets the credits.
yeah, and like if you remember, like when with VHS, it's like it would flicker when you'd pause it.
Oh yeah, it'd be like
So I'm
yeah.
trying to figure out like what it's saying. And so I had heard that you could download songs illegally on the internet. So I was like, well, let's go and get this song.
Yeah.
And so, I'm like going through one by one, trying to find the song. And then I found it, and it was like a terrible version. So I went to go and try and find another version of it. And it came up Paranoid, Black Sabbath, guitar tab. And I was like, well, that's obviously going to teach you how to play it. And
Mhm.
what would be cooler than listening to the song would be playing the song. And then so I brought it up. It had 6 lines. It had numbers on it. Of course, I knew what frets were. I kind of knew if we had to put your finger on the fretboard. I just hadn't done it in years. And then so I was about like 13 at the time. And then I was just like, I've still got that guitar downstairs. So I ran downstairs, pulled out this old dusty guitar, and then completely failed at playing Paranoid, but I didn't give up until I could. And then that was like how I got into music, and I just did not put the guitar down ever since. Like I would just play all night and sleep at school. For some reason, some of the teachers were okay with that. Some of them weren't.
Like he knows what he's
And
gonna do with his life. It's cool.
yeah, yeah, and I just dedicated my life to it from there.
Oh my gosh. I have a few follow questions because as a kid from San Diego who grew up skateboarding, I got a lot of the music that I liked and found out about via skateboard videos, like you just said, like talking about you'd pause the VHS or you'd wait till the end to see, oh, who did Jamie Thomas skate to? And you'd be like, oh, that was Iron Maiden. Okay, let me go find that. And then you had to buy the CD for like $18 for the one song that you wanted to hear. But then the rest of the album, thank God, was good. And it was like, that's how I found out about Misfits, and a lot of hip hop was all through skate videos. So I think that's so rad that you were able to kind of discover Black Sabbath, obviously, through this part of this extreme sports VHS that you happen to
Well,
get
that's it, and I
out.
think even like the just like the video games as well. Like I was never
Mm.
huge into video games, but I mean everyone who was like our age back then at least played Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 at least once. You know what I mean?
Right, right.
And just they just killed it with the soundtrack on that, and that just exposed like an entire generation of or I should say the rest of the generation that hadn't quite caught up to just that movement of music. It was quite an eclectic soundtrack, but it was banging.
Yeah,
And
I'm
then
trying
so
to remember what was on that one. I can vividly remember the first one having like Primus and Dead Kennedys on it, but I'm trying to remember what was on the second Tony Hawk.
you had like Rage.
Okay.
Oh, like I'm struggling to think of the names right now, but it's just like I literally had the on Spotify now you can like look up and just go like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, and it just like it's so nostalgic. It takes you straight back to that time.
Oh, I'm gonna look at just now. I'm just curious. Soundtrack. But yes, yeah. I mean, hearing those songs, oh, Public Enemy, Anthrax, Bad Religion, yeah, Rage Against the Machine. Yeah, I do remember these now. Now that I'm seeing it. But yeah, like getting stuff from video games. I don't know if video games are still doing that. I know YouTube channels will do that, right? With somebody maybe playing a video game and then
Yeah,
it'll come
yeah.
up. Like I have a 7-year-old son who's obsessed with Tears for Fears right now. Like Songs from the Big Chair is like his favorite album, which is, and I couldn't figure out why. I'm like, that's rad that you like Tears for Fears at random, but there's some YouTube videos that he's watching that sings Everybody Wants to Rule the World. So now he's like he found the song. Now he's watching the old music videos from the 80s, but it was all based off some YouTube channel.
Yeah, it is crazy just how you only need that invitation in,
Right.
like, and mine was watching, like a luging
Street
scene on a
Luge.
extreme sports scene. It's just like it's so bizarre to think that something so small can change your life so much.
Right. I mean, wow. So then you eventually learn how to play Paranoid, and then you said you never put the guitar down.
Yeah.
So how do you meet from what I was reading about Black Smoke Trigger was you guys all met pretty young, right? Like in high school or before high school?
Well, there was like we all kind of like meet at different times. Like the guy I've known the longest is
Okay.
Baldrick.
Okay.
And so we met at intermediate school. So that's when you're like 10, 11 here in New Zealand. And he was in the classroom next to me. And I just remember like he would always make everybody laugh. He was the class clown. That's, like he got the nickname Baldrick from one of his teachers naming him after Baldrick from Blackadder, if you've seen that. And then
Uh-uh.
so he's just like this buffoon, and the name stuck. And then so like back then, he is still quite good at skateboarding. So he was one of my friends that was skateboarding, and
Okay.
then so like at one point when we were in high school, he started picking up the guitar as well. And so he was playing guitar, playing songs, and he was, playing in a separate band. And we it was kind of funny because I discovered music through skateboarding effectively. And
Mhm.
then a lot of my friends started picking up instruments as well. And then
Mhm.
so it was kind of cool to have, just like that connection. It's like you didn't have to change your friend group, or just your friend group were doing the same things that you wanted to do.
Mhm.
And then so, uh, you know, throughout that time, I'm playing in bands. Baldrick starts coming to the shows, and then Baldrick starts, coming to our out of town shows and starts like traveling with us sometimes, just for fun. And then You know, I one time we needed a fill-in drummer, and then my boss at the time, because I worked at a music store, was like, "You got to meet this young kid called Josh Te Maro. He is, you know, he's the up and coming local." And it was like, okay, cool. And he was like, I can't remember exactly how young he was, but he was young. Like he was like still in, you know, still in high school at that time. And you know, so we're playing and got him to fill in for a gig, and it was just like I remember thinking, if we ever need a drummer like permanently, then he's going to be the guy, you know. And then Dan, he has just always been renowned as the best bass player in town. Like he is above and beyond, like just he is it's completely obsessive in nature. And he is literally just dedicated his life. He transcribes stuff, you know, like he just like he'll just sit there and transcribe music just for fun, just because it's
Oh
literally a
wow.
release. It's literally a release for him. It calms him down. No idea how you know he's like literally insanely good at music and at playing the bass. And then so when it came time to be putting this band together, you know, the bass player was obvious choice of, you know, he was a friend of mine, and I knew that, you know, for instance, he'd be keen on playing in a band like this. Josh, we were already playing together, and if I take that back just a few years earlier with Baldrick, he started to write his own songs, started to, you know, have his own demos, and then so at an after party of one of my band's concerts, he said, "You want to hear you know, a couple of demos I've been working on?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool." And so he chucks the headphones on, clicks play, and I'm like, "Who's singing?" And he's like, "Oh, me, but I need to find a singer because, you know, like I can't sing." And I was like, "Yes, you can sing, and you should sing these songs, you know." And it took a
Yeah.
bit of convincing. Like he absolutely flat out refused, and he got another singer in, and then so at one point they needed a hand playing a couple of parts, and, you know, like I was a friend, so he was like, "Hey, do you want to just jump in and play, you know, like fill in guitar for this little bit?" And I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." And then that, of course, as it always does, ended up me permanently joining that band. And then I was like, how are we going to get Baldrick to sing? Because we, you know, like he sounds amazing. He sounds so much better than these other people we're trying to wrangle in. Like he should be singing, and he just wanted to play guitar. He didn't want to sing. He just wanted to play guitar, and effectively it was his band. And then so what I did was a little bit cheeky. I went out and got like the guy who is like the best guitarist around here, you know, like who's our age, Bish, who's like an absolute freak on the guitar, and I got him to join the band. And then so it was like,
Like, sorry, me and this other guy are way better than you at guitar. We're gonna have to
yeah, yeah,
make you sing.
it's like, man, you're probably gonna have to sing, you know. And then you know, like, so it was like it was a sick plan, but it worked. And
That's
then
funny.
yeah, and then so since then, of course, you know, like he's just been Baldrick, you know. And
Mhm.
you know, everyone who hears him sing is just like, wow, you know. And he
Yeah,
since
I'm
then, of course,
surprised that wasn't something he's always been, doing, right? I mean,
well, the
he's
thing with
got that
Baldrick
like
is,
rock voice.
yeah, exactly. The thing with Baldrick is he can pick up anything far quicker than anyone else. And so because it's like anything he sets his mind to, he's like at that above average level way quicker. And then so of course because of that, he's just kind of like for a lot of things, he doesn't have to try to be better than most people. And then so he's kind of I can sometimes with Baldrick it sort of feels like he's like, oh well, you know, I didn't have to try very hard to get that good, so I'm probably not. Where it's like, no, you're just a natural talent. And you know, and of course since
Yeah.
then he has put in the hard yards, and he has, you know, like put in the work just to you know, just to get like his voice sounding as incredible as it does on this new album.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible that he that he's just like, yeah, like I'm looking for a singer, and you're telling him like, you who's singing? He's like, yeah, well, it's me. I mean, and you're like, no, 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 no. You need to be the singer of this band. And the way you guys went about it, it's really pretty funny. And so once that happened, and he's now the vocalist, you have to let the other guy down. Like, hey, sorry, man. Like you're out of the band. Like that must have been an awkward
Well,
conversation.
it actually worked out quite good because we did have one guy who was he we were like, all right, man, here's the time for practice, and we'd already had a photo shoot,
Oh
and
man.
he was like, practice. He kind of did that Ellen Iverson thing. He was like, yeah,
Oh, like
practice.
I don't really need practice.
Yeah, he was like, I'm kind of just more keen on like the photo shoots and the gigs, and we were like, okay, this paints an easy picture.
Yeah, got it. Okay. So that was the easy departure, sounds
Yeah, yeah, thankfully.
like. Okay, so then you guys start, and then when he moves to vocals, is that when you already have the name, or is that when you changed the name to Black Smoke Trigger, or you were
Well,
in another band too, right? Around the same time?
yeah, so at this point, like that band with Baldrick singing was called All the King's Horses, and I was in a band called Horror Set, like Horus set to Egyptian gods, night and day sort of thing. But
Mhm.
everyone used to think it was horror set, and it was like, no, we're not the
That's
horror
what I
movie
thought.
soundtrack.
Horror set,
Yeah.
like the set of a horror movie, exactly.
Yeah, yeah, bad name, bad name. You know, if it's not words in the English language, you probably shouldn't call your band it. You know, and then so at that point there was like kind of like two bands going, and then uh things started to get to a point where you could kind of tell like that All the King's Horses, well, it just wasn't going to continue on, and at that time in horror set, I had my friends Jevon and Matt, so they were playing bass and drums, and I was singing,
Okay.
but I'm not I'm not a natural singer. Like as far as I've got quite a low voice, and in my mind, I'm always like trying to write higher melodies. The kind of melodies that Baldrick, it sounds incredible. When he sings and writes them, and then so we had this band meeting with like kind of like both bands, and then the bass player of All the King's Horses says, "Here's what I think we should do. I think we should break up this band, and Baldrick, you should sing for those guys."
Oh
and
wow.
and I had already sort of figured out that it was probably going to happen, and we were all friends, and we're all still like super tight friends. And then so I'd said to Baldrick at some point, I said, "Hey man, if anything was to happen with All the King's Horses, would you be interested in singing for Horror Set?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, I mean, if anything happened, then totally." And then so it was like, okay, cool. Well, he's said it now as well. So like, let's just go down that route, or that route. And then, so yeah, we just started. We're just playing like local shows, and it was not anything, not anything huge. We had a good like local following, and we're traveling around New Zealand playing shows. But it was never like, all right, let's like have at it and do this thing like 100%, full out.
Mhm.
And then so it got to a point where it was like, I'm wanting to take this really seriously. I'm wanting to take this to the next level. And so I had a chat with with Jevon and Matt, who are still both dear friends of mine. But I did have to have that conversation, saying, "Hey guys, like I don't think you're ready for like where I'm going. Like
Yeah,
the
like I'm all in, and if you have any reservations, like speak
exactly, yeah." And, they
now.
had families as well, which like made things just a little bit more complicated, like even just time wise.
Mhm.
And then so Matt left first, and then so Josh was in drumming, and then so at that point we have me, Baldrick, and Josh, and then we have we kind of move forward, and then it's like, all right, like line in the sand, we're starting to be a band that we're now naming Black Smoke Trigger in February of 2019. it was like the 1st of February. We're going to start jamming, we're going to start writing songs, and then we're going to go and record these songs with Michael Wagner in Nashville. And then so
Wow. How did you get that connection?
it's actually a friend of mine. I was continuously traveling to the US just multiple times a year because in my spare time, I founded one of the largest guitar lesson companies in the world called Guitar Mastery Method.
Yeah, I was doing some research on that. That's rad. So it's like online lessons.
Yeah, yeah. And then, so I mean, back in the day, I thought that I'd just be creating one course and then that would be that. But then it just ended up, like growing into this business where, I've got team members all around the world, and, we got instructors from all around the world. In fact, Edie, one of our guys, is Nashville based.
Oh, cool.
And then so, I keep on traveling for like, just different business events. And then through that, I met a friend of mine called Rick Barker, who lives in Nashville. And he was Taylor Swift's first manager. And we got on real well, but we were never hanging out in Nashville. We were hanging out wherever these, these business events were. And he said, look, man, you are, a musician, you're in the music business, and you keep coming to the US and you've never been to the music capital of the world. So how about next time you come to the US, you spend a couple of days in Nashville with me and I'll show you around. And I was like, sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it. And then so I arrive, I crash at his place, and while I was there, he had previously introduced me to an amazing guitarist called Ariel. And she had played in like Eric Johnson's band and played with Vince Gill, and it's just unfathomably good at guitar. And then so she was in town. And so we were going to catch up. And then I remember like being like waiting for Rick to arrive at dinner, and then we're catching up tomorrow with Ariel, and she's like, hey, do you want to meet Michael Wagner? And I'm like,
yes.
Do I want to meet the guy who pretty much made the soundtrack of my life? Like, absolutely. And then so we drove out. So he's out in Mount Juliet. So we drove out through all the woods and the beautiful scenery, and with the deer running on the road and all that. And then we get out there, and he's just such a beautiful man. He is just like such an awesome guy. And he's showing the studio. He's just got like the platinum, like master
million
puppets.
records.
You got, No More Tears, you got Skid Row, and I'm just like, this is surreal,
Yeah.
And then so I said to him, I was like, hey, is it okay if I just go get a video of this? Because like my friends are gonna absolutely love like the lounge next to. He actually Airbnbs it out now, but the lounge next to the studio, just the whole thing is just covered with gold and platinum records. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And then so I go out there and I'm doing this video, and then I come back in, and then I don't know if Ariel had said anything to Michael before, but then when I walked in, she said, hey, Michael, Charlie actually plays in a band. And Michael goes, oh, cool, you should send me some stuff.
He's like, I get this all the time, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, well, if Michael Wagner's saying to send him some songs, I'm going to do it as soon as I get within 10 meters of a computer,
Yeah, of course.
And then so I was like, this is like it felt like a long shot, but I was like, well, let's just I'll send it. And so I sent the horror set tracks that of course had Baldrick singing on them, and he listened to them and he replied back and he said, I really like your sound. It's completely up my alley. If you ever want to work together, let me know. So I pretty much replied with, let's book it in, because that was like the push that I needed to go all in. Because it was like, well, I'm not going to mess this up. I'm not going to lose the opportunity of working with Michael. And I'm so thankful that it didn't, because it kind of created Black Smoke Trigger, because otherwise we were, waiting for that perfect time. And it was like, okay, there's no perfect time. We need to do this. So we wrote, songs for a few months, went over with incomplete songs. And Michael, being the amazing producer he is, helped us shape those into what would become our debut EP, Set It Off.
Really? And I
Yeah.
talk about like having a validation, right? Like you send it to this person that you've looked up to all the work he had worked. I mean, yeah, he did Metallica and Skid Row and Motley Crue, I believe, and it's so
Yeah.
many massive, massive albums. And then for him to say, "Yeah, I want to do, yeah, I want to work with you all and produce an album," or he did an EP. I'm sorry, but like,
Yeah.
yeah, like you said, now it's like, okay, well, this person's co-signed my band. Let's go. Let's do this.
Well, exactly. I mean, you mentioned Motley Crue. At the time, he was recording Mick Mars from Motley Crue's solo record.
Okay, yeah,
And
yeah.
and then so he was in contact with him, just texting throughout the day sometimes. And on one of the songs that we had, The Way I'm Wired, Michael goes, Mick would really like this song. Should I see if he wants to play on it?
Oh wow.
And it's like, what? Yes. And then so he sent the song through to Mick, and then Mick was like, yeah, I'm keen. I'll come down. So he drove up and, came into the studio with his wife, and we, hung out for a day, and he played on the track. And then so it was just like, that was a surreal experience, because it
Oh
was
my
like
God.
not what I was expecting to happen at all. And obviously, Michael had our back a little bit there, knew that would kind of open a few doors and stuff. And so, so that was really awesome. And just recording that record was just like, in a way, it felt like the School of Hard Knocks, because we all were, so green to recording at that level with someone who's not just a yes man, and someone that's not just going to say, yeah, that's good enough, and someone who's going to push back on some of your ideas, or like share some ideas of where the song could go. And that first record, we really feel is like, like wearing our influences on our sleeves. Like it's kind of like a little bit more like a tribute in a way to all of our influences that we have, because we didn't necessarily have a huge amount of time to discover what the sound of Black Smoke Trigger is when the four of us are all having a creative input. Because as I mentioned, we didn't really have anything even completed in, I'm like writing the solos like the night before. We were like writing, like finishing up the lyrics while we were recording them. And it was like it was a really stressful time in a lot of ways, but and just an amazing creative time as well. And then so learning so much from working with Michael, then we went after that. Obviously we're doing music videos with the underwater music video for Caught in the Undertow, and then we're just got into writing songs. We play, like playing some great shows, but then of course there was this weird thing that happened in 2020 which shut the whole world down for a little bit, so the shows stopped. And then so what that meant was that we went into just writing songs, song after song after song after song. And what is cool is that The Way Down was actually the first song, musically anyway, that we wrote after recording Set It Off.
Oh wow. So that's the first one you guys really had a chance to work on after having the recording experience you did with Michael, and I could see him, why you would listen to, what he's gonna say, and he's not gonna probably just be like, oh yeah, that's good enough. I mean, you look at his walls and you're like, okay, there's a reason why
Yeah.
it's not gonna just be it's good enough. Like he's gonna make sure the best thing comes out, especially if his
Exactly.
name's gonna be on it, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it was just like it was I mean it was just such an incredible time, and you know, like he's such a great friend as well now. And you know, one thing he said is like when you know, when I work with a band the second time, usually half of my work's already done because they include my style of producing into their own creative process. And so I think that that's something really interesting as well. You know, of course, with the latest record, we worked with Nick Raskulinecz, and there's, you know, like you just learn so much from recording in those environments.
Hmm. Yeah, I was gonna ask because you didn't go back with Michael on the second, at least on
Well,
this most recent song, right?
well, it would have been tricky to do that because Michael's studio is now at my house.
Oh, you bought it from him.
Yeah. And so you know, like
But you
even
got
when
this.
we well, even
There's
when we were recording with him, he was like, I'm getting ready to hang out my boots. And
oh,
um, you know, like he said, he was like, I've spent my whole life recording bands, and then when I finish recording that band goes out and sees the world. I start recording the next band. And so he spent his entire life in the studio, you know, and so he was like, right, I am ready to, you know, to do this. And I think that, you know, when the world shut down, it was like it was that push that he needed to finally just actually relax and just take some time for himself, you know.
mhm.
And then so I'd always said to him, hey, you know, if you're ever going to if you're going to sell, you know, like sell this gear, then because he was saying about the retiring thing, then let me know. And then so yeah, that was because the thing is that, you know, with Michael and that gear is it's his he you know, built it up over his entire life,
Yeah.
and so there's so much like sentimental value in it for him, you know. And the thing that he didn't want to have happen was for all the gear just to get split up. You know, like a lot of these you know, units, the compressor units, or you know, they're like single digit serial numbers, or some of them just literally say Wagner. And you know, we've even got some like there's a unit I've got here that inside of it has components that recorded the Beatles at Abbey Road.
Oh
Which
my
every time I
god.
say that, I get like chills in my body because it's like that is just not a real thing, surely, you know, like absolutely crazy. And then so one of the cool things was, you know, Nick and Michael had you know, met before, but never in an environment where they could really, you know, have a discussion. And one time when I was in Nashville, it was actually during the mixing of the latest record. Nick was like, you know, you're gonna catch up with Wagner while you're here? And I was like, yeah, I was gonna, you know, see if you want to go for lunch. Do you want to come? And he was like, hell yeah. And man, I got to tell you, to be a fly on the wall for that conversation, like that was incredible because Nick just absolutely loves all of Michael's stuff, and Michael loves the stuff that Nick does as well. And then so, you know, Michael is a huge Hailstorm fan, and
Oh, interesting.
yeah, and then so that yeah, that was a lot of fun, that conversation.
Did Nick use your gear that you bought for Michael for the album then?
Well, funny story. We originally went over to record an EP with Nick. And then so we were over there for a couple of months. And as we're getting closer to the end of that time, Nick said, these songs, I think it was like 6 songs. He said, these songs are too good to go on an EP. I think you
Wow.
guys should make this your first album. And so at that point, we were like, okay, like this is, you know, just a slight different frame of thinking now. And then
Yeah.
so he said, go home, play the shows that you've got booked. You know, like these other song ideas, I like these ones, develop these ones out, bring me some new ideas, and, you know, decide how you want this album to flow. And then come back and then we'll record the rest of the songs. So we're like, okay, perfect. Sounds great. Uh, because of all the lockdowns and everything, the New Zealand consulate here, or the US consulate in New Zealand, had completely shut down for quite a long time. So they were so backed up with visa requests that the first time that we went over, We got in with a like a visa waiver, work visa waiver sort of thing. You know, I mean, getting US visas if you know you're outside of the US is a long, difficult process.
Yeah, I
And
heard it's a nightmare.
our you know our attorneys in New York like luckily got us this this visa waiver thing, which meant that we had to go through the secondary questioning and all that kind of stuff, and it's just like, man, are they going to let us in? You know, but so
Why
the
are
first
you
time,
really coming here? You're like,
yeah,
for the record, like,
and so for the first time that we went there, it was on this waiver, and if we'd stayed in the US, we could have stayed in the US for a year, but because we left, we now needed a new visa to get in. And our attorneys were like, oh, by then, you know, we got like 6 weeks in between, you know, so like we'll be able to suss it out in that time so that you guys, you know, can just have your full visas. And then it starts getting a little closer to the time. We're starting to sweat a little bit. We're like, is this going to work? You know, are we going to get these visas in time? And then basically we got the word that like New Zealand is too backed up. You were not getting your visa. And then we were like, okay, well, what on earth do we do now? And then so our at this point I had the gear, Michael's gear, but it wasn't set up. And then so our attorneys said, look, we can get you expedited appointments in another country. It can be any other country other than the US. So we've had success doing this in Australia and success doing this in Mexico. Obviously, being in New Zealand, it's much easier for us to get to Australia. So I was like, okay, cool, get us into Australia. We'll get our visas there, and then we'll fly over. And then they were like, okay, slight problem. They've denied our expedited request. So we're gonna try and get you one in Mexico. And it was like, okay, let's, you know, I'm just waiting to find out when we're going. And then I wake up from a text from our manager, Andy Gold. It said, call me when you wake up. And so I call him and he's like, all right, good news. We got you an expedited appointment. The bad news is it's in 2 days in Mexico City. So pack a bag right now and get there. And so that was a journey in and of itself, because through all the delays and everything, we ended up literally running through Mexico City at 7 a.m. in the morning, dripping with sweat, and getting there 15 minutes late. Luckily, they didn't mind that we were 15 minutes late. So we're in Mexico. We hand over our passports and we're like, okay, cool. In a few days, we're going to be getting these things back, and then we're off to finish this record. It didn't happen like that.
Did you not? You probably didn't get the passports back.
Well, I got mine. I got
okay.
I got mine, and Andy, who he's like our day-to-day manager / sort of stage manager / guitar tech, and he got his as well. And then Dan, our bass player, he got his as well. But at this point now, Dan has to leave because he has to come back home for a family emergency. So we had to like bail him out and like get him flown back to New Zealand. And then so Andy and I get to exactly where you are in Nashville, and and Nick's like, okay, I mean, it's all well and good that we got the guitar player of the band, but like, when are we gonna get the other guys, man?
Yeah.
And then so Josh and Baldrick are still in Mexico. Josh's comes through. So now we're talking like a week and a half, like of just being there without our passports, like a little bit of an odd feeling.
Yeah, what were you guys doing? Just hanging out in Mexico City?
Yeah, well, actually a couple of the guys Dan and Andy really got affected by the altitude. We didn't realize how high that was. And Andy had a collapsed lung before, so he was messed up.
Struggling, yeah.
He was just pretty much just lying in bed the whole day with like no energy. and Dan was a little bit the same as well. So so me me and Josh and Baldrick, we went out, went to the Te Arakwān pyramids and gone and look at museums and
Oh,
and all
that's
that kind
cool.
of stuff.
Yeah.
So we got to do a little bit of the touristy stuff while we're there, and then so yeah, at this point, Josh finally gets out, and so he gets to the studio, and so it's like, okay, cool, we can now start because we have the drummer. We start recording these songs. We're just like waiting every day. Like, is Baldrick coming in today? Nope. Baldrick coming in today? Nope. Baldrick coming in today? Nope. Because you see, Baldrick got a DIC here, which is a DUI.
Mm-hmm.
And that meant that there's like about 1 million more steps to get a
Oh
visa.
yeah, I've heard it's I have friends bands that were having that issue getting to Canada. Like they couldn't play Canada
Yeah.
because they had like a DUI or something. Like, well,
Yeah.
what?
I
Oh
mean,
man.
like it was like the worst part was that this was on a night that I had like sort of purposefully said, all right, guys, no one's driving. I'm going to come pick you up. We're going to leave the car there. And it was when he went home, we went driving. And
Oh
then
my gosh.
so the thing is that what that led to was an amazing story of Baldrick being stuck in Mexico for about a month, most of that time being by himself. And then so, like at one point we got the word from our attorneys, hey, Baldrick is not getting into the US during this period of time you're booked into the studio.
Oh my gosh.
We need to go and fit. Luckily, it's all sorted now, but it was just like, shit. And so we're sitting in the room with Nick, and I could tell he was pissed, and I would have been too. I mean, it's like, he set aside this time, and through actions that were, nothing, had nothing to do with him, the singer of the band can't be there to record the songs, kind of an issue,
Right.
And then so we just sort of like, oh, what do we do? Do we do it, remote? Do we what is it? Do we just send a whole bunch of takes and then you just pick them? And, it's just like Nick was just doing such a great job of just pulling the best performances out of every single band member. So we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to not have him in the room. We knew that was like, however we made it happen, even if we had to like wait until this visa stuff had all blown over, we wanted Nick to be there, to be in the room, to produce, like the vocals and all the extra parts that we had to do. And then so Nick goes, well, I'll tell you what, you got all that gear of Wagner's. If you set that up, I'll come and do it at your place. And then so we're like, okay. So we came back, went through all of Michael's gear, set it all up in the dining room of my house, effectively made the entire house a studio. I've got this like really awesome entranceway, and it's like really big. It's kind of like if you put drums in there, it's like total like Zeppelin vibes when you're playing.
I was gonna say like Zeppelin 4 or whatever. Didn't they record the drums in there?
Exactly. And it's like just when the Levy breaks, it's just the natural reverb in there is just incredible. And then so he was like, man, this is perfect. Like, let's just set some drums up right here. Like all the drums of the record were like pretty much already done. I think he just wanted to set the drums up because it just sounded amazing in there, So kind of like he came up with a few little things that we could get to like overdub on drums and like fills and stuff. And it was so much fun, man. So he came over for 10 days, and it was just like the moment that he arrived at my house, we had a coffee because it was quite early in the morning, and then he kind of just showed him around, showed him his room, and then he's like, all right, well, should we get into it? And it was like, okay, like I thought you were going to need some sort of rest or something, but like let's go. And so it was just like that for 10 solid days, right up until he left, like until the actual moment that he left. And in fact, the one of the things which was quite heavy for me at the time was that I just found out that my mom's cancer had spread throughout her entire body, and it was, you know, so I'm trying to like stay focused and get this record done while this is going on, and it's just like it's a real heavy feeling, you know. Obviously, it's like it's your mom, you know.
Yeah.
And then so when we actually ended up you know, adding an extra song onto the end of the record, and it's not quite in the way you'd expect it, but I because it's quite a pumping track, but it has this nice classical piece at the end, and I wrote it as a tribute for my mom, and yeah, it was literally the last thing that we recorded
Oh
was
my
this
gosh.
classical piece, and we were like recording it right up until the moment that he needed to leave and go back to the plane. And you know, one of the really cool things about it was being able to write a song for someone while they're still alive, you know, because it's like most people, obviously, you know, through the grieving process, you know, like to get it out, you're writing a song about, you know, how much you miss someone. It's like there's a lot of songs like that, but I was like, I want to write a song about like just almost just saying thank you, you know. And yeah, it was awesome being able to share that with her, especially, you know, with my brother. Like, you know, obviously the song's not released yet. And then yeah, and then so, you know, unfortunately my mom actually just passed away just on Saturday.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. I'm so sorry.
yeah, it's been a tough week, but you know, like the one of the things which kind of helps me have a little bit of closure is the fact that there's the song that's the last song on the record that is in tribute to her, you know. And then so yeah, it was a really cool thing, you know, to have done. And you know, adding that classical piece is it's awesome, because then now there's just that added memory of like, well, I recorded that like right through those doors, like, you know, behind this computer. And you know, that's something that, you know, I'll just always cherish that memory. I'm so stoked that, you know, Nick came over here for that as well, so that I could have that time with you know, with mom while we were recording as well. So
Yeah, and to have it be like the very last thing, right? Like he's got to go, and it's like, well, let's get this one last piece, and then it happens to
yeah.
be, you know,
A
that.
funny story though with it is that uh we like, he was like, man, we need like a awesome classical guitar, and the one I had was okay, but I was like, no man, let's go and get like, I want this to be special, let's go and get a guitar. So we go to the music store I used to work at, we get this awesome like you know, Spanish made guitar, we hear recording, and then you know, we have like 3 mics that are, you know, set up and you know, meticulously placed so that, you know, all in phase and everything, and then it's so you can literally hear the birds chirping outside, and then through this mic, you know, like if you take the headphones out, and then you can't hear them chirping, but you put them in, you know, these mics are so
That good.
sensitive.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I just hear like this lawnmower start up, and I'm like, ah. And it's my neighbor Ellen, and he's like, you know, in this big like tractor in this field, like doing lawnmower, and it was just like, and my dad was here, and I was just like, grab a bottle of wine, just like just take a bottle of wine and just ask it, because of course we're running out of time.
Yeah,
Nick
you're like,
needs to
give us
go
to him
do.
and just tell him to wait an hour.
And then so we do that, and then we go and we start we start recording again. Next minute my other neighbor starts doing their lawn, so it's like, get a bottle of wine, not one of the expensive ones, because if we have to give a bottle of wine to the other neighbors, like, we're gonna start
We're
running out of
screwed.
good
Yeah.
wine. So that's yeah, that was, it just kind of, yeah, added some humor to the moment.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you were able to get that piece, and I'm super sorry to hear about your mom. I mean, that's awful, especially it literally just happened. Like you could have canceled this. I mean, I'm sorry. Like,
Oh man, it's
uh,
it's one of those things, man. If you know, if I think it's, you know, one of those things that the people have to grieve, but then it's also, you know, if I look at what my mom would want, or what really any parent would want of their kids, it's like, keep going, you
mhm.
know. And then so it's like Dan, you know, our bass player, he just like a month ago he lost his father, and then so it's one of those things where like now that song kind of has a double meaning. It has a meaning for him now too.
Mhm. Wow. Well, again, man, I'm really sorry to hear that. Is like, was this like recording process of this new album, was that fairly recent? I know because like you said, you put the EP out in 2019 and
Yeah.
then the pandemic, which throws a couple of years of time in there. But like, coming back and then just releasing kind of the first new song in almost like 3 years, right? A little over 3 years.
Well, we
Um,
actually recorded this whole record in 2022,
oh, okay.
which is, and then so we've been sitting on this for a while, just waiting for, just all of the right puzzle pieces to be in place. Part of that, was, because we've got, a great team involved now. And, obviously Andy Gold, our manager, managed Rob Zombie, Linkin Park, Pantera, Lionel Richie.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
also produced a bunch of films too, right? Didn't he produce a
yeah,
lot of the
Rob Zombie's
Zombie
movies.
stuff, right? Because he
Yeah,
well, he
yeah.
worked with Rob Zombie, so that makes sense. But yeah, he produced a bunch of films.
Yeah, and so he's still doing that. He's got one coming out next year called Pandemic Six Party.
Oh, no way.
I'll let you fill in the blanks.
Oh, gee. Is it a Rob Zombie film?
No, it's not a Rob
Oh,
Zombie film. This one, it's a guy who's done a whole bunch of music videos for his bands, and so
that's
yeah,
awesome.
and we got a track on it too, so that's going to be cool.
Oh,
And then
nice.
so like this year, 2023, is just all been about effectively getting all of the puzzle pieces in place for the release. So we actually we've done 2 music videos. And so we originally thought we were going to, well, it's now going to be our second single. We thought it was going to be the first single. We did the
Mm.
music video, and then as we started getting, more team on board, they were like, I think that we should have this song here, "The Way Down," as the first single. And it was like, okay, well, let's do that then. And then our manager was like, get the video done. And I was like, okay. Well, on that note, I've got this idea where we play on the tallest building in the Southern Hemisphere, on the outside of it, and then I jump off the building for the guitar solo. And he was like, well, okay, how quickly can you get that done? And I said, I don't know. And he was like, okay, well, let's just get a performance video, and then we can do something more elaborate later. And I was like, just give me a few days. Let's just see what we can make happen.
Yeah.
And somehow they thought it was a good idea to let us do it.
The video is awesome, by the way.
Yeah, it was, oh man, it was just absolutely mental to be filming up there. And then so yeah, somehow they let us do it. And then so we just like went full out into creating this video. And it took a lot of work. And it totally, like, the end justifies the means. And because the team were like, when are we going to get this video? Like, we need this video to be able to release the song. Like, hurry up, guys. We're like, just a little bit longer. It will be worth it. It will be worth it. And then so obviously the actual experience of filming a music video, playing up that high with a helicopter swirling around you, filming it, was just like one of the most surrealist experiences of my life.
Man, I was getting anxiety watching the video. I was just like thinking about being out there. Like, no, that's not. I'm not. I can do like roller coaster heights and stuff where I know I'm strapped in, but just to be where you guys were watching that video, I was like, yeah, no, thank you.
And we were out there for hours too. It
Yeah.
was
Oh my
literally
gosh.
hours. So you kind of, in a weird way, you kind of got used to it because you're just out there for so long, and each of us actually had like a safety person that was like just out of light, and then so obviously just like in the movies, they're all edited out, But we kind of had someone there we could kind of chat to if we wanted to, you know. So I kind of made it a little bit
safety
weird.
person. Like, what if you fall off? Like, they're ain't gonna come back.
So we did have ropes. We did have harnesses.
Okay. But
So the
still,
harnesses,
like, even a harness was, that'd still scare the shit out of me.
yeah, the harness was like underneath our clothes, and so like, you know, Dan is terrified of heights. Baldrick's not a fan of them at all, and then so I said to them, "All right, guys, well, let's go and go out onto this walkway, you know, like a month before it, just to see if you guys are going to be okay with it, you know, because like I don't know what I would have done if they said no, because I would have been like, ah, damn it. But
I'd been like, shoot me in a studio and a green screen and just throw me in there.
yeah, and then, you know, the craziest thing is I can't believe we managed to convince them to let us have a drum kit out there. Like,
yeah,
we can actually see we uploaded like a making of the whole thing, and one of Baldrick's many talents is welding. He's one of those guys where he can like grab a handful of like nuts and bolts, and then you give him a few hours, and then he's like, check out this deer I made from like these nuts. It's like,
oh my gosh,
insane. And then so he like literally like welded together like this base for the riser in two parts so that it could fit through the door, linking together with like racing pins and stuff, so that the whole thing would like, you know, was gonna all hold together and nothing was gonna fall off the tallest building in the Southern Hemisphere and then kill someone when
sure
at the bottom. And then so you know, that was crazy in and of itself. And then the other thing was, of course, you know, when I jumped off the tower, you know, because they said yes to us, you know, walking on the outside, and I'm like, hey, can I jump off it with my guitar? And they're like, yeah, we can definitely do the other bit. We'll have to see about that. And then so, you know, one thing that I think that we did to kind of like really help make this actually happen was we tried to think of all of the reasons why they could say that, you know, safety reasons that it, you know, it wouldn't work, and just find a way to solve those to start with. And then so this is the actual guitar I jumped off with. And then so on the back here, I actually have these metal clamps.
Oh wow.
And then so those were actually like carabined like onto the harness that I was wearing underneath the clothes, so that when I was like literally jumping off, the guitar would sort of still stay with me, and hopefully the only danger was just not going to whack me, you know?
Yeah, or if you dropped it, right?
Well, exactly. So that wouldn't have been good either. And then so yeah, literally had like these clamps on the back of these brackets, and then so jumping off it, the day before we actually started filming, they said, all right, well, you know, you guys want to come in and you know, check that these harnesses are going to fit underneath your clothes. We're like, okay, cool. So we just there like going, okay, cool, this is going to work. Yeah, we can, you know, like, you know, got the rope coming up the back, and, you know, like, I'm kind of uncomfortable, but like, you know, the jacket's covering the harnesses. And then so the first time that I go to jump off, they hang me out over the edge, and then so they, because it's on this cable, so there's like, where I kind of got the idea from is because, well, they already do it. It's like this, you know, a tourist thing, jump off the Sky Tower. Like, they've already got the apparatus to do it. So I'm like, well,
oh, that was going to be a question I was going to have for you. Like, how are you getting them to just be like cool with the fact that you were like, yeah, we could just like put up a cable and I'll just jump off the side of it. Like, so this is already a thing you could pay to do, or whatever, your tours, you can go do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Got you. Okay.
And then so, and of course, you know, we just, you know, like had the cables removed for the video, you know?
Yeah.
And then so, I walked out to the edge, and so I had this lady with me, you know, one of the safety team, and then so she's like, okay, so I'm gonna pull you up, and so get your feet like over the edge, and I'm gonna pull you up, so you're kind of gonna be on like your tippy toes, and I'll be holding you, and then as soon as I let you go, then you're going to be falling. And I'm like, okay, cool, yeah, like all makes sense to me because I, like normally they get you to hold on to these bars before you jump off,
Huh.
and but I needed to be ready to play the solo because I didn't want to just jump off with the guitar. I wanted to literally play the solo on the way down, like for it to be legit and for it to look legit. And then so I'm walking up to the edge, my feet are off the edge, and it just pulls me up, and I'm like dangling out 630 feet high, looking out over Auckland City, and I'm just like trying to keep my heart rate down, and also going, "You brought this upon yourself." And then so she's holding and holding, and then they keep just yelling, "Hold, hold," and I'm just sitting there going, "This is a long time. Like, what is taking so long?" Little did I know there was a problem with one of the batteries and one of the cameras down at the bottom, and they were like, "Don't jump, don't jump." Yeah, and then so there's this whole line of communication. And then so watching the raw footage, they literally had me hanging out over the edge for 2 minutes. And then so if you can imagine how long those 2 minutes felt like.
Oh my
And so,
gosh. Yeah, you're just anticipating falling for so long. Like, oh my gosh. 2 minutes
and
is a
then,
long time if you're just sitting there.
yeah, and then so I'm just like hanging out, just going, enjoy the view, just enjoy the view. And then the worst part is I started just getting cramp in my legs because my feet start slipping. And this chick, she didn't expect to be there for 2 minutes. She's starting to run out of steam. And so she's just slowly like, kind of like, and feel it just like, and so my feet are like just starting to slip on this metal thing. And I'm like, like, don't slip, you're gonna fall off and ruin the shot, and there's something more terrifying about it happening when you don't want it to.
Yeah.
And then so I'm hanging off the edge, I feel slip, and I'm just like, get the like, and I'm nearly gonna say like, pull me in. I'm thinking, if I say pull me back in, everyone's just gonna think that I whizzed out and was.
Yeah, you're too
I'm like,
afraid to
I'm
do
not.
it, right?
That's not an option. That's not an option. They're just gonna hold on to this cramp, and my feet are slipping. And I'm like, oh shit, I'm gonna go. And then they're like, all right, count down from 10, and I'm thinking, why does it have to be from 10?
Yeah, let's do a 3, 2, 1.
And then so as soon as she let me go, and I just kind of jumped / fell off the tower. It was like, just floating down. It was kind of a relief because all of a sudden I could relax my legs, and then just playing the solo, like just going down. I'm just thinking like, this is crazy. It was absolutely surreal. And then as soon as I get to the bottom, then I needed to run to the elevator, go up again, and jump off again to make sure we had enough coverage while the helicopter was still there. So I had to go and do a jump again straight away. And then
oh my gosh.
And then so just as I went up, then I said to Andy, our tech, I said, got any tips? Like, how did that look? And he was like, I looked okay. You just like maybe like move your legs a little bit more because it kind of looked like you looked a little too comfortable doing it. So I was like, okay, got it. And then so the jump that's in the video is the second jump, and so you jump off, you see me jump off, and I'm just like, like kicking the legs out. And then so just floating down, playing the guitar solo with this like blue hue. And it's like nighttime. It's just like, I remember laughing to myself at just how absolutely absurd that moment of my life was.
Dude, it's a not only is that part insane, right? And the fact that you are all out there, but like the premise kind of in the video itself, like how you all take over like the lounge band, and just like the funny kind of piece that kind of goes along with the entire video as well.
Yeah. The cool thing is that originally, like the idea obviously spawned from being up on top of the tower, and then it's like, well, what's the reason? Why are we up there? And like this whole band is, we just have so much fun together, and we just constantly telling jokes, and and then so we're like, well, this is an opportunity to sort of, like seriously, Baldrick is the funniest guy you'll ever meet, and then so And so this is a way of being able to show, like a different side to us. And, we wanted to have something that, had the absolute spectacle of, say, caught in the undertow, which we filmed underwater, which, everyone was always saying, how are you going to outdo that video? And then so we wanted to have that, but then, add some storyline into it, add some funny moments into it, have a reason why we, why we discovered that, how we find the key and, go out there and, and then so it was just adding in all that stuff made it so much more work, but paid off so much, and then, excuse me, there's so much story that happens that people can pick up so many things by watching again multiple times. And then we also added in like a huge amount of Easter eggs all throughout the video, just to, for the super fans, just to like pick out and find. And I won't mention all of them, but, for instance, one of them is that we replaced all the screens. And then so the last time that I knocked the waitress with the drinks over as I'm trying to run back up the tower, in the background is actually Baldrick dressed up as a news anchor reporting on the fact that there's this band playing at the top of the tower.
Oh, interesting.
Kind of Inception kind of stuff happening.
Yeah, I gotta look for those. That's cool. I love that. Yeah, there's so much thought into this video. I mean, so much planning. I mean, to do what you guys have done, that's really incredible.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was so much fun to make and a lot of stress, but as I said before, the end justifies the means, and I'm damn happy we did it.
Yeah, and you got the record finished, and you're gonna release it. I don't think you have a release date out, do you yet?
We don't have a release date out yet. In fact, we're gonna be having a meeting with our distribution team about the release of the second single very soon. And then so don't have the release date for the album yet. And we will have. I mean, it's going to be 2024. I know that much. I just want this to be out there.
6 weeks.
yeah. I mean, I just want this to be out there. But like it's one of those things where we gotta do it right and get people excited for it as you do. And so I really can't wait for everyone to hear this next single that we're releasing. It's called Perfect Torture, and it is a very different song. I think people are going to see a different side of the band that I've never heard before, and Baldrick is really, really highlighted in this one. Like it's a builder. It starts out with this acoustic guitar and ends in utter chaos. So it's going to be exciting. The video for that one is really cool as well. It's there's not sort of stunt stuff, but it's very visually impactful.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to hear it and I can't wait to check out the new video as well. And I appreciate your time. Thank you so much, Charlie, for doing this, man. I know it's early where you're at, so I appreciate you taking time, and I'm very sorry to hear about your mom, and I appreciate your time today.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam. It's been a great chat, man. Appreciate it.
I have one more question for you before I let you go. Do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
My advice for aspiring artists would be to, number one, make sure that you have gone all in on your craft. And that's not just, for instance, for musicians, that's not just your instrument. That's not just being a great technical player. That's not just being able to work well with a band. It's not just, having good timing. It's that the craft where the real winners of the, especially the music industry are made are people who can write great songs. And I feel like that is, just something that this band has just really grown in, especially for this new record. It's just going all in on what is going to be a great song, and just learning from the great songwriters of the world, and going all in on that, because if you have a great song, you don't necessarily need amazing production to get it across. I mean, I think we've all been in situations where we've heard incredible productions, and when the song finishes, you can't remember a single line of the song. However, you can have the likes of Bob Dylan sitting there with, you know, his voice playing guitar, and it's just an acoustic guitar and a voice, and, you know, people getting moved to tears. And so I'd say, like, you know, just go all in, and, you know, and just the other thing is just make sure you really want this. Like, do you want to dedicate your life to this? Because it is the hardest business in the world. You know, everyone wants to do it, and no one wants to put in the work a lot of the time. So, you know, is it something that it is better off just being a hobby? Because for a lot of people, I think that it's, you know, like that it is. But it's like, if you do want this and you really, really want this, dedicate it, you know, your craft, your instrument, your songwriting, and read some books on business, because so many people just have no idea about, you know, what it takes. It's like, you can't sell a secret. So even if you did happen to write a song equivalent of Bohemian Rhapsody, if you don't have the right people to help you, the right managers, the right publicists to get this in front of people, no one's ever going to hear it. So, you know, it's one of the necessary evils of the world. I mean, you look at people like, you know, James and Lars from Metallica. It's like, well, they think about this in, you know, in the business way. It's like, you create the music that you want to create. If other people like it, then that's awesome. If other people want to come and see that live, then that's awesome. And you kind of got to be okay with it not happening, because I don't think anybody should ever just be going out there creating music because they think that it's going to resonate. You know, I think that you got to love what you do. You got to love the music that you create, or the art that you create. And then if there happens to be a market for it, learn how to get your songs in front of that market.
Bringing it backward.